Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Hi Rogers, can I ask you something?
Shoot.
What does corruption mean?
Well, summarily, corruption is abuse of public power for personal gain or for the benefit of a group to which one owes allegiance. For example, when a public office is abused by an official accepting or soliciting a bribe. By the way, private people can be corrupt too, like bribing police officers to escape fines.
Okay. So exactly how does that concern me?
Well, do you pay taxes?
I guess, yeah. What does that have to do with this?
Everything. Because those taxes you pay are supposed to facilitate services you use, like water, electricity, roads construction, medicines in hospitals, name it.
Okay, that is much bigger than I thought. But it can be stopped, right?
Well, yes it can, although it may not be as easy as it sounds. And here is the reason why. Corruption roots are grounded in our country's social, political, economic, bureaucratic traditions and policies.
So, what has kept it going this long? I mean, why don't we stop it?
Well, the main reason why it has been here for so long is because institutions are weak, either as a result of poorly defined ethical standards of public service, weak administrative and financial systems, or ineffective watchdog agencies.
What can we do to stop it?
At a national level, we must focus on strengthening the independence and effectiveness of public institutions that fight corruption. At a personal level, we must commit to never giving a bribe.
I promise I'll never give a bribe.
Well, that's a great decision you have made. Me and you now have to spread this message to all our friends. If we all do our part, corruption will be no more.
This message is brought to you by Alternative Digital. The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
A very good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I welcome you to today's edition of the Hotline Show. My name is Rogers Tuyabwe, and it's a very great honor today to be here to discuss about a number of issues that are of national importance with people who are senior citizens and ones at that who are experienced to have been a part on the majority of those who have made decisions that shape public domain, that are discussed in the public domain, and we're here to make sense of many of these issues as they're happening, to get their perspective as senior citizens, but also as experienced players in political spaces, and to understand how better we need to approach certain issues and certain developments in the community to be sure that what we do is informed, but also is the right thing to do. So with me today is Mr. Ochieno Joseph, who is one of the leaders of the Uganda People's Congress. And another panelist we have today is Mr. Lubega Mukaku, who is a leader in the DP bloc. And later on, we will be joined by the Secretary General of the National Economic Empowerment Dialogue, Mr. Odaka Asuman. And unfortunately, we were not able to have Mr. Awich Paula today. He's out of the country on matters that are of national value. So that is the discussion. The discussion today is going to be around political parties as they are, the issues that are happening that have been in the public domain, of course. But largely, I think our focus is going to be as we walk towards 2026. The parties seem to be disintegrating instead of building firm foundations on which they're going to sell their campaigns, their proposals, their manifestos, but above all, to sell the trust to the people that they're the right teams to be trusted with the leadership come 2026. So that is going to drive the conversation for this day. We'll touch about a number of events that have happened, and one that we'll particularly begin with is what recently, a new alliance, a new coalition that, if I might call it, the Holy Alliance. First, I want to understand what inspired the name itself, and then we'll get into the nitty-gritties of what it is about, what does it intend to achieve, and maybe just a little bit what is different about it, why was there a need to have another alliance, seeing as we have a number of them already. So I'll begin with you, Mr. Ochieno. A very good evening, sir. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, and Mr. Mukaku, thank you for having us, for joining us today.
My salutations to you, to Digitalk, and the viewers.
Yes, sir. So let me begin with you. You're one of the leaders who formed the Holy Alliance. From what I read and the following of the events as they unfolded, 5 political parties were a part of it. That's including, is it JEMA, UPC, will understand, DP Bloc, the CP, Conservative Party, and the other one was NEED, yes. First, just for an ordinary person out there who was following these events would like to get a deeper insight about this. What is the Holy Alliance and what is it about exactly?
The Holy Alliance reconstructing the one spirit, one country. It's not happening for the first time. It happened in Lancaster, where our founding fathers decided that they would create a country where the citizens and the people that came together could build a Uganda where we have mutual trust that pervades the communities and the polities and the people. Mutual respect that while he's from Nagongera, I am from PJ. We'll look at each other as brothers because of what brought us together, our history, our heritage, diverse as it is, unity in diversity, but also in love, irrigating the interest of each other. That if you're Musoga and you are Nadiope, you'd be very much interested in seeing Mutesa Buganda's interest being promoted. And if you're Mutesa Buganda, you definitely want to be at par with the Langi and their chieftaincy or chiefdom. And the chiefdom of Lango would very much want the Western Island to progress such that you even make them forget where they came from. Because you remember at independence, Western Island was almost jumping out of it. And they said, okay, we shall give you 49 years. If you mistreat us, we shall go back to Congo or go to Sudan. And they had that liberty because these were artificial boundaries. But they felt it was good to start, to have a clean start with the other communities. And the Western Islanders thought they would support the Karamajong, they would support the Banyoro, they would support the Catholics, Protestants, traditional faith, those without religion. So it was, that is the Uganda they envisioned. That when you are Beni Chiwanuka and you are the first minister, you don't have to begin constructing roads in Kisabwa or Bukomansimbi. Start with Kaliro. That is Iganga to Kaliro. Start with Jinja to Kamuli. And then, because the Pope will be coming for this particular country, construct that going to Namugongo. Now when Obote comes, it was not begrudged with what Ben Chiwanuka did. That he started off bringing railway wagons, constructing the railway, refurbishing the railway that went to Kirembe, because those were our economic command heights. Constructing district general hospitals in Gombe, in Bujiri. He didn't have to really do it in his Rona Kokolo. So this is the country. And they thought they would construct this country on the motto of for God and my country. For God and my country is what symbolizes the holiness of God. Clean, truth, justice, being true to our promises for the next generation. If you say one Uganda, one people, be true to that. If you say truth and justice, be true to that. If you say we shall secure the future of Ugandans, even Karamajong are Ugandans. If there is famine, or locusts, or war, or insurgency, and it happened, the country decides that they should have iron sheets, they should have animals, the goats. Do not take them away. Take it for yourself. It's not that they have caused themselves the war. Okay? When they say this is the Luero thing, because of the war, that Luero triangle, it's not the people's fault. Deliver what is for those people. That is the way our founding fathers envisaged Uganda. That the tobacco of West Nile could benefit the land, could benefit the Karamojong, that the copper of Chirembe could be beneficial to all of us. But in particular, also the people of Kirembe, the people of Kasese, that once there is gold, marble, whatever you think about it, the precious stones in Karamoja, that you will not just exploit. You don't think about these populations. So Holy Alliance is also about delivering this country, delivering the aspirations of all Ugandans, equal opportunity, not leaving anybody behind. Holy Alliance is about, can we break from the history of unholy alliances? Unholy alliance immediately at the start after independence. We had these unholy alliances. KYUPC. Then Idi Amin comes. He says, I'm pushing Obore because Obore has done this. What happens? Luumu, Benchuanuka killed. People thought we are getting together. Probably Obote had made a mistake. Obote's government. I'm not saying Obote himself.
Yes.
What happens? Parties beheaded. Faith beheaded. People died between the Achilles and the Lions. Massacres. Then the people sat in motion. Let's have a new start. Unholy. You know how Moshe's field collapsed when it came here. People even pride themselves. When I saw so and so putting pen on paper, I knew he was done. Can you imagine? And a country which has the motto called for God and my country. Then NRM. How many people died? I told you last time here when we were with the major. 0.5 million people. By and large in the triangle of Luero. Greater Mbende today, Greater Luero, and Mpigi. The world also visited a few areas. Just visited. But the highest toll, not that the only citizens of that, because there were other people who were involved, but 0.5 million people. Some even claim, because even today we still get the scouts out of the banana plantations, out of the cassava plantations. It could have been 1 million. That meant 273 people killed per day to 600 people. Do you know what that means? Do you know how huge, what a cost of that genocide? 12 people, 25 people per hour. But today, even that man in Luero Triangle, whether Movende or elsewhere, even Namayumba close here, Semuto Kapeka Masulita, Avana Museveni, but today, how does Semuto look like? Kapeka. Go and look at the roads. With Konyi, in Gulu and other places, they fought for about 20 years. But Nusaf 1, Nusaf 2, Nusaf 3, at least you can see the roads in Gulu. I'm not saying it is enough and sufficient. What did these people of Luero do? To be condemned for 40 years, that they cannot get a road close to that. How about Hoima, where the war just visited? At least the people of the north, you can sympathize with them, because they had 20 years with Kony. But go to Hoima. They say these are oil roads. How about the oil roads in Apache? They should be the same. Leave that alone. Okay. Because not every part in Bunyoro is well off. But Kiruhura, which has never had a war visiting it, and the Kazo, the roads that go to Kazo, the infrastructure, the farming infrastructure, the stores, the what, the extension service system. Nobody did not do that. I mean, did not do that. It was a P4 graduate. So we are saying there are unresolved issues. The issue of devolution of power, which our neighbors, Kenya, have done, devolution of power in terms of finance, capacity, and all this. We need to revisit that. The issue of the powers of the presidency, unchecked. It's like the only citizen. The issue of electoral, constitutional, political reforms, has lingered. The issue of citizenship, Ugandan citizenship. These are unresolved issues. The issue of land. Who owns this land? The issue of our economic command heights. And how we share this. So these are unresolved issues. So people need to revisit this. The Holy Alliance, us together, one spirit. We are saying now we are in a transition. At some stage we were promised, which was a fake promise. And we took people for a ride. And which is the other crisis? Chitimba Bula, Chiwan, politics. Fake promises. Even in the opposition. It's not just the NRM that is guilty of it. But even in the opposition today, people promise things they cannot deliver. Now, it is that we are saying the Holy Alliance, we need to go back. The transition is there. We were promised the takeoff. It is like a plane. Takeoff, you prepare. Landing, you prepare. But when you are there, you can leave every affair of yours, just a little bit, every affair of yours to the pilot. But when it comes to takeoff or landing, they tell you, cabin crew, please. Please, to your highway, fasten your belt. Yeah. Make sure that your neighbor will have, in the unlikely event, please put on your shoes. So it's not, even they remove the curtains. During that time, you are first class, second class, but at the time of landing, there is no first class. You know. Now in Uganda, in a transition, there's not going to be a first class. Now, there are some people who are exclusively concerned with the technical. The debate must start. The debate on spearheading constructive dialogue to guarantee a steady and a stable political transition. Okay. So coalescing quality leadership for a new Uganda.
Mr. Mukaku, those are very good points, and I want to thank all of you for coming together and putting all of that together. But largely, I think about 90% of all of what you said and all of what got all of you together to form this coalition is something that is not new. We've had different coalitions. There's a PFT, for example, one that you have substantively been a part of. There's this, what is it called? The current one. Something Forces of Change. There's a current one with NUP, with FDC, and I don't know which other party that is there. All of these things are talked about in every one of these coalitions. What is different about this one that people should pay attention?
The difference is to walk the talk. The difference is to bring about the deliverables. In my language, Ochieno, there's a saying, an old adage, asiko obulamu tassa mukono. Keep on trying. Keep on trying. And again, the old stories in the Bible. You remember so many stories, whether it's David, whether it is Cain and Abel, whether it is... They keep on repeating themselves. But we cannot get tired. What we are saying in the Holy Alliance, do not give a chance to the chaos and violence stars to derail this country back to what it was. Secondly, to the levels of what happened in Rwanda. You don't want to remove a Mugabe and bring a Mnangagwa. You don't want to remove Gaddafi and bring what is happening in Tripoli. You don't want to remove Hossein Mubarak and bring the Tahrir Square situation. You do not want to remove Habyarimana and bring what happened. You do not want to remove Museveni today, who claim I'm removing Obote and the others, and bring back the same Museveni situation. That's why we are concerned as members of the Holy Alliance. One spirit. One Uganda. That Uganda for the next generation.
Are you trying to nurture people who are going to... Exactly what I want to understand is this. what is it that you're doing differently that the other alliances have failed that you think is going to make better results?
Number one, I have told you how the different coalitions or getting together to do the job have failed since independence. But also, if you take the NRM today and you blame it for taking the people for a ride, Kutimbabula, as I said, all the promises in the 10-point programs never fulfilled. You ask them, why did you remove the UPC government? Why were you not patient? But again, even in the opposition, I've told you, we say we are going to remove the dictator, this is people power, and at the end of the day, you see family dynasties emerging. Ultra nepotism and corruption emerging. Then that's why he feels very uncomfortable to join the people power movement, because he feels it's not delivering to what its promises are.
Isn't it too
If it is united forces for change, are we lying to each other about what is about to happen?
Isn't it too soon to conclude on that? For example, you've been a part of the DP. The DP has been in opposition since I was born. And I don't think I have so much to accredit it for doing. So maybe the NUP is also trying to learn a few things here and there.
You don't need even to finish that statement. You were old enough when we had a delegates conference in Imbale, and I was there to tell you, going back this, going board. Given what happened, it's a delegates conference of the DP, people are promising so high, you have the tents of NRM, you have the mattresses of UPDF. What did you expect? What did you expect? Okay. So I did not have, for me, it was easy to see. Secondly, you are saying, is it not too early? Do you know when Museveni went to the bush during Idi Amin? He writes in his book, within 48 hours he had gone to the bush. Why didn't he give him the time? When they went to government, he said, I'm going to the bush. He did not wait for a month. Did he wait for a month?
No. But apparently because he had been planning.
No, he did not wait for a month.
But because you're the same people who say.
No, what I'm saying.
This man had just wanted a spark and been planning.
But the Ugandans justified his war and followed him. Okay? Only that. He did not walk the talk of his words. What we are saying today, you say it is too early. Too early for NUP or for too early for what?
For NUP.
For NUP. Do you know when NUP was born?
About out of people power.
In 2016, I took my small mattress, took it to Chadondo East. I was not called by anybody. I thought it was the right cause. Remember how they used to brag and say the FDCs, that the failures of this, slowly by slowly, an emergent wave, the people power was taking shape. And it was actually born in Mjidi, Asmani's campaign, and born in our unions. Okay? That is 2017 early. NUP to come around because of the tickets, it was 2020. Today is what year?
2024.
Today is 2024. You want to mean that because he went to university for 3 years, he got a degree. I'm sure he did so.
I did.
Some even get it in 2 years, and they are able to take on government departments and the like and lead them. You want to mean that in 4 years I'm not able to depict this system that has emerged carries with itself the seeds of self-destruction.
Okay, I'm going to come back to you. I'm going to come back to you certainly on that very one. But Mr. Ochieno, so we have, and I'm not looking at this coalition that it's not right. It's a very good gesture. It's a very good move. If anything, we need all the hands we can get. Make sure that we move an inch, we edge closer to the promise that every single Ugandan wants. So, but with all of these coalitions, the ones that have existed, even the ones that are existing right now, and the ones that are cropping up right now, have you seen so much effectiveness in any of them to warrant forming new ones?
I think it's a difficult question to the extent that this arrangement is new, is hardly weeks formally. In any case, I think it's an idea, in formation, almost works in progress. But that said, effectiveness of an organization, I'm not sure whether they, in many cases, will necessarily be about time and being whether or not the time, whether you can measure it in time. But time is obviously the best healer. That's why after 38 years, we know that Museveni took Ugandans for a ride. And ideally, he should be, in normal times, possibly the most wanted person in this country amongst all Ugandan citizens. And if possible, I said that, 10 years into his regime, it would be treasonous. And if I had said it 2 years into his regime, which I sort of nearly said, it cost me exile. And if I said 15 years later, they would say possibly I was being jealous. If I say so 20 years ago, they would possibly. So that is it. But really, I have a slight difference of opinion with some, as far as the question of the historical alliances are concerned. And it's really just about substance and my appreciation of understanding of these. I think in principle, Ugandans possibly today need much more cohesive alliance, across the political divide than any time since our independence.
That's also true.
In fact, the most important alliance, a coalition of Ugandans, that is required post-independence is today. And in a way, some allude to some of the implications that a crude shock, a crude change in this country could be extremely volatile and maybe of the kind that nobody really would like to see. The foundations that NRA has built of hate, of them versus us, of anger, of brutal massacre, particularly in the north and east, and of brutal massacre in Lubega, which Ugandans now have a right to question and establish and put on the table, is such that the recipe for a very crude emergence out of a possible change that will take place today requires urgently that all of us, all Ugandans, should be able to coalesce sort of together. What form that takes, I think, generally by and large is the issue. Now, that said, the alliances leading to independence were interestingly possibly the nearest semblance of today's alliance, except that the alliances leading to independence were about Ugandan political organizations, community groups, cultural institutions, identities, religious groups, and organizations, interest groups in Uganda, versus the then colonial establishment that for which there was absolute consensus that we needed to see the British go, but almost certainly that we needed an independent Uganda with a form of government, whatever it is. That versus now an imperative alliance, which is almost certainly an alliance of Ugandan saying no to Museveni's excess, almost apparent criminality in some cases, as far as his dictatorship is concerned. In fact, some of the loot is quite criminal. So, for you are the lawyer, and I will safely say that, yes, I can actually call it a criminal regime without, seeking to consult my lawyer first. So that is very clear. So that's the Museveni beat alone. But number two, I think the spirit from some and what I would say together is that no, as Ugandans, particularly Ugandan opposition, we are not looking for Museveni's head. I've been saying that the guy wants to relocate Luzira prison, but possibly he wants to make sure he doesn't go there. No, perhaps even if he's not relocated, as long as, even if we went ahead and provided for what is required for the inmates in there, I'm not one of those who was possibly calling for him to retire in Luzira, because unless he knows something that I don't know, why he might be thinking of retiring into Luzira. So, no, the post-Museveni Uganda is the Uganda that ideally would require leadership from all Ugandans. So therefore, including all Ugandans who are NRA.
Yes.
So if then that is the case, you see how important this one is. Now the question is, is anybody listening? In particular, are the NRAs listening? In particular, are these produce of NRA patronage listening? Are these briefcase guys who dine with NRA in the evening and pretend to be opposition during the day listening? Are ordinary Ugandan victims who paid with blood and excesses, by supporting NRA in the way, or perhaps being accidents of birth in Mpigi, because that was boundary zone for the NRA, are they? And what about those from the north? And you can go on and on and on. So that is on the one hand. But back to the leading independence. So the leading independence alliances were loose. People were coming, the focus was Uganda, the focus was independence. What do we do? Maybe that's why it could quote relatively easier. But even then, I think the culture then prevailing is different from the mess that ended up created about political patronage and money, me, myself, and I. So you found community leaders coming from Acholi. You found community leaders coming from Kisoro, for argument's sake. You found community leaders coming from Chotera. And people are genuinely interested in this Uganda nation state post the British. And people were willing to say, these are my issues from Mukono, these are my issues from Nagongera. By the way, sometimes somebody else would even say, by the way, we've not even talked about the other guys in Moroto. The guy from Moroto is delayed on the way, but actually this would be his issues. And so people, when it's convenient, have actually challenged some the Lancaster House Agreement. Sometimes it really irritates me. Oh, because it happened in London, they want to justify the nonsense of 1995 NRA Constitution. You see what I'm saying? Or failures because things went wrong. But no, Ugandans went there, and the outcome, in my opinion, was generally not bad. To the extent that part of what sparked the challenges were the referendum on the lost county thing.
Counties.
Also,
the desired referendum of the relationship between Batoro and Bakonjo, and then Bagishu and Sebei's. These were issues.
Yes. So, because those things were raised there naturally, we came back, there was consensus. At the end of the day, there was an agreement. Just because the 1964 outcome sows more bad seed, particularly in this case between Buganda and, in this case, UPC, that's not therefore mean that we hit at Lancaster. But my point is, the round table thing is not necessarily bad. So Lancaster was not bad. The people who abused or failed to manage, the outcome, are the people who should be held accountable. And part of my argument has always been that I think in many cases we've not been critically able to look at both ways.
Just like we're spotting the round table thing, the 1995 was bad enough beyond Lancaster. But still, there were some good things. Only sheer craziness and madness that you remove the safety valves.
I get it.
The safety valves and everything that was right. Even the citizenship, you try to manipulate, and the land issue, it has even done worse.
Okay. So really, if I may just continue slightly, so there was a national consensus leading to our independence, So that's important. So there's no reason why we can't have a national consensus of sorts today, except some people think that they now have monopoly of the guns, monopoly of loot, and therefore public resources, monopoly of polity, and so therefore because they use state institutions which have been intertwined into a particular political organization, which is now a family organization, and they control the Republic of the Republic, they now think they're invisible. It's a nonsense, and I think Ugandans just need to wake up to that. But anyway, the alliance post-independence, and that's where I'm coming to the same question, UPC was a political party, the founding political party as Uganda National Congress in 1952, It had won the majority parliamentary seats. DP came second. KY came third. On the basis of the constitutional arrangement at the time, and again, these things have been talked about, including law students, possibly you have your own contradictions. The alliance was an alliance that was made after the elections, it was not done in Lancaster. You know, the deal at Lancaster House, there was this continuation of guys, let's work together. So that's the spirit.
Rotation of presidency.
Yes. So really, when we go into those days, sometimes we're hitting ourselves on the leg, you know, thinking that we're very clever, when we're actually showing that we're actually here, thick, struggling to build a foundation for the future. And we're busy sitting at the foundation on which we built. Instead of we should learning lessons from them, including where we may have gone wrong, but honestly as honestly. So, at independence, what does the largest political party say? SAMI is of DP. All that UPC said, UPC Central Executive, and I say it as an authority because I'm a UPC president, except without office in Uganda House. You know, Obote is instructed by the Central Executive of the party, you know, that look, let's form a government of national unity. We sought a government of national unity, meaning that as the party, that would have a small majority, because the seats we had, plus 9 nominated seats which go to the governing political party, you know, which would have, it would give us a weak post-independence government. So we said, look, but we would govern, you know, and knowing what power is at the same time. Maybe some people would have defected from the other political parties anyway to come at that particular time, because there was actually a spirit of nationhood and general understanding of some of the issues. But we said, no, let's ask DP and KY so that we form a national consensus government to build a new government. That was the background. Now, because of the DP issues, which we don't want to go into here at the moment, DP and KY issues, differences, you know, DP refused. And I've got this on the structure of Milton about it. Sir Edward, and also Ben Chiwanuka refused, number one. Number two, on record, and you get this in books and there. Obote says that he approached Ben Chiwanuka first. Why? Because he's the leader of the second highest political party. So in other words, we are teaching you and my beautiful princess on the machine, you know, how to do these things, you know, in terms of what is the word, etiquette, order, and you know, kind of stuff.
Organization.
You know, on organization. So it was just the right thing to do. So he approached Ben first before we went to Sir Edward on these proposals. You know, of course, he approached both of them, but it was only later when Sir Ben Chiwanuka said no. So that is it. So that alliance, this is my point, was originally supposed to be a national unity government involving everyone else. That in itself we could argue is an alliance.
Yeah.
So maybe today, one of the things that we need, and I hope possibly post this conversation, and particularly after people have eaten pilau, and instead their time is bust, especially when they realize that most of the money is there, is stolen public money anyway. Yeah, maybe they wake up and give us phone calls and begin to have a conversation. You know, guys, it's urgent. We need to have a national conference for all of us to get
on an unresolved issue of we need to get away from the winner takes it all because it's not helping you, helping us.
Yeah. So okay, let me conclude that because it's a bit of
please do.
So sorry really to make it difficult for you as a presenter. So then we have an alliance with KY. That alliance on a common agenda must be credited. Because it failed on issues does not mean in principle it was wrong. But now for you, young guys, and particularly the youth of this country going forward, you know, your job is to ask the Ochienos of today, what exactly happened? What were the real causes? Try and get the stories from Sir Edward's side, get the stories for UPC and Milton Obote's side, try and read independent history. Pick each of them and critique like intellectuals. You know, out of that, possibly not to hang which one. I know Obote has by and large been hanged on the, but you know, in between we will try to know better why these things did not work. And then maybe out of that we pick lessons and say, how do we move forward? But finally, just in principle, where we are today, as I said, just to repeat, no, we need more working together than not working together.
That's true.
Yeah.
You did hint on this thing, for example, us as the young generation that are certainly coming after, you know, trying to also occupy many of these places. from all of the mistakes and all of the shortfalls that happened in many of the alliances that happened back in the day after independence and building up to the last couple of years now.
And all that we have failed to do.
Exactly. As we are forming new alliances, like the Holy Alliance, let's say, have you, as the people who are forming it, learned from the failures and mistakes of the previous ones that an ordinary Ugandan should have more expectations from what you're forming to be different from what happened a couple of years ago, even those that are sort of dying out right now?
Yes, in association, in alliance, talking from Ochieno's perspective and from UPC perspective.
Ochieno,
yes.
Before you even put him on the wall, what have you judged from what he has just told you?
No, what are you?
No, just in this, because in this theater, in this theater, he has tried to explain that we need to understand the perspective of UPC, the perspective of this, bring it together, know the mistakes, and move forward. That's exactly what he's saying. We need to appreciate and self-reflect. You can go on.
Indeed. So as I said, the most talked about is the UPC-KY alliance, and I would suggest it's the most misunderstood. And that's an alliance in which I've been involved. It's the most misunderstood. And it's possibly the one in which there is less sinning than sinning. You could also talk about another alliance in which, again, UPC led, because we led in the liberation struggles against Idi Amin. But that's the alliance that led us to Moshi.
Most talked about, but is it the most demonic? No, because now we had this alliance of the NRM, NRM broad-based. How many kingdoms have been hit? Konjo Kingdom, the Musinga, Uganda, Ankole. If you people wanted to talk about the UPC one because of the 1966 crisis, how about the crisis we are faced? Crisis we are faced with the religions. Muslim, whatever. It's not the most demonic. If you want to use that one to talk about it most.
See, why I asked that question is this, and including, of course, all of what has happened in the last 40 years of the NRM. Also, of course, not excluding those that happened even before the NRM came, is that as we are forming the new alliances, I don't ask that in bad faith. I want to understand that it's important and necessary at this time to have another alliance. As the alliance formation and this whole process and the people who have participated, good thing you both have knowledge of what has happened in the past. Have you learned from those, and
indeed,
should people expect?
So don't you worry, I am actually very comfortable responding to you because I actually go to you in this very specific context, and that's why I was trying to bring the 1978-79 alliance that brought in the Uganda National Liberation that got rid of Idi Amin, and for which, again, as I said, we led as Uganda People's Congress, both politically and military in majority. Do you know, leading to Moshi, if you read some of the stories of Moshi, in fact, Museveni is in his Mastered Lies, has got his very lying version of Moshi, which is an absolute nonsense. So sometimes I sympathize with people who
I'll take this one as one of the main takeaways.
You know, so and by the way, to me, it actually, as Ochieno, it really irritates me. And for us, UPC, it irritates us. But no, we've been trained to live with humility and with the burden of responsibility to be exemplary. So,
which master? Which master? Is it the MASTER?
No comment. No comment. So, in Moshi, actually, while the arrangements to have the Moshi conference, was designed and set by Old Milton and Nyerere, apparently, as soon as the arrangement was set, some you get this links to part of this question. People started clamoring. People started strategizing about coming in as groups. Who's going to be chairman? Who's going to be there? Who's going to speak for us? To the extent that Obote also says, because there is a group that says Obote was sneaking people. Actually, many of Obote's people were kicked out. But these are real groups. And by the way, again, maybe again here, you need to consult some researchers to go into these things before, because now it's nearly, is it 40 plus another 40 is nearly coming since 97, it's a long time. 79, 78, what exactly happened in Moshi. These are historical things that, unfortunately, because we're not very good at documenting and writing, these days people are doing slightly more writing than before. So there's quite a lot of
You need also to
facts
interrogate
and histories.
the role of planting the seeds of self-destruction by the patron himself. Because you can blame the Ochieno or whatever, but also what was the role of Nyerere? The stealth entrance of Fronasa and...
And indeed, those are some of the points I'm saying. So really, people started coming as early as that, because those are the questions what you're asking. I'm saying personal interests, intrigue, short-termism, me, myself, and I politics, failure to appreciate the big picture. This Uganda less, but me kind of more kind of stuff. Really are a net contribution to the challenges we're facing, and that groups will be facing today. So in that Moshi thing, what is told me actually in one particular case, there's a major Ugandan citizen in a major name who landed in Dar es Salaam, and only when he was stranded did he approach old Milton, you know, and Milton Obote gave him everything, including access and opportunity to go through accreditation, and in fact referred him to who? To Nyerere, and indeed to Nyerere's office. But in this very particular case, the person's interests were not UPC, and nobody knew it. These are all just merely Ugandans, you know. So these guys go to Moshi. In Moshi, let me cut it short. In Moshi, there was an agreement. They did the military commission, the joint presidency, you know, the National Consultative Council, and one specific provision, almost like the Lancaster House and the referendum, that when we capture Kampala, when Kampala falls, there must be elections, multi-party elections, in no more than 18 months. Did you know that? Did you know that? One of the most important agreements, you know, in Moshi, who would be president and things like that, whatever, done. But that on the capture of Kampala, fall of Kampala, multi-party elections would be held within 18 months, in no more than 18 months. Did you know that? You didn't know that?
No, not.
So it is that, okay, granted then...
1 year and a half.
Struggles with the Lule, then struggles with the, particularly then can be nice goes umbrella, and the composition is the multi-partisan. Of course, interest groups begin to come. But point is this. When then the military commission and the three presidency took over, yeah, the Mpuugas and others now formally said now they were setting a date for multi-partism. I have it on record on the personality of Dr. Moses Apiliga, who together with Paul Mpuuga and others, but including Mr. Museveni, they visited President Nyerere, they visited President Kaunda, and they visited Samora Machel as leaders then supporting the operations, but preparing the interim administration preparing themselves to conduct multi-party elections.
As you conclude on this.
Apparently, now, Mr. Museveni was saying, no, Uganda was not ready for multipartyism. That's why I'm taking it. You know, Uganda is not ready
also true.
for multipartyism. And so, of course, Nyerere disagreed with him. He was the only lone voice, I think, amongst the five in the delegation. I can't remember two other people, but I have the details, you know. Kaunda found it just strange. This is now the language Museveni was speaking. I'm told it was only Samora Machel who was nodding, you know, nodding with him. But don't forget, Samora Machel did not believe in multipartyism. He was a radical, genuine Marxist. At least it was not Museveni's Marxist, who was a Marxist in the morning and an Anglo-American imperialist Puru in the afternoon, you know. But not only was he nodding because he was agreeing with him, but he was nodding, recognizing that, well, there was an agreement. We're going to have multi-party elections on the one hand, but two, respectfully saying it's neither here nor there. My point is, when you have people who seek to agree here at the table, and by the time you reach the door, somebody says, those are people who are holders of terrible swords. They're devilish, they're satanic, and we have some of those people. And you know what? Museveni nearly behaved with us. I don't want to say he did behave like that. Those are some of the
I wanted to, before we go for a break, it's almost time for the break. But before, I wanted Mr. Mukaku to also just hint a little bit, in like 3 minutes at most, just about that particular question. Do you think as you're forming this alliance, you have learned from the history?
Majority of Ugandans have learned. A few, as I said in this whole alliance, we do not want to give chance anymore to the chaos and the violent stance to take back this country to what we went through, or even worse. So care must be taken to watch. There were 5 people he has told you. There was only one mindset. He was saying, as we walk out of the door, this is no agreement. But he was telling everyone it was agreement. If you go to Nairobi peace talks, same story. When you come here, even when we talked about a broad-based government, no sooner was the broad-based government celebrated with its achievements, he started saying the NRM has won. And then the same organization was asking if we are all in the broad-based government.
So who are the other we?
Yeah. This is the same thing with what we have consulted and have participated in. When you say this is people power, like now whole alliance, it has UPC, it has DP, it has this. Don't turn around later on and say, oh look, if you are not with us, the DPs, you are not with us. This happened in people power. So much to the green, to the shock of Asumani Vasali was, he is President Jem. You are saying, if you are not Nope, you are not with us. I'm telling you, people power was born and bred in Busoga and Asumani's constituency. James were at the forefront. How do you now say James must become Noop? DP block. Our friends UPCs we worked with in Arua, Chairman UPC Arua, and West Nile was the campaign manager of Kassiano. And he was going to stand, and he stood down. Now you're telling him, you have to become Noop. They told Kassiano, you have to become Noop. That's how we lost Arua municipality. And the man was also saying, now I'm here to support Ayume. Ayume was with Museveni, Ayume's son. Now, you see the level standards. So as we move forward, you have a dagger behind. We need to go back to for God and our country.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you, gentlemen, for those insights. I like one particular thing about the discussions we have here, and I tried as Labour as much as possible to allow the time to explain and all of this. I appreciate the historical context in many of these responses, because then it lays a foundation on where we are and where we have come from, and maybe gives us a better pedestal, a good pedestal where to begin to imagine what future we want to take. And for us who are following, especially those of us who are young people, that makes a lot of sense for us. We will listen, not that we'll certainly take all of it, but we'll listen to what might be a thing that we need to hold and run with it. So thank you so much.
Promise us that you listen and you take this thing seriously.
We are going to get a very short also break, ladies and gentlemen. When we come back in the next hour, our focus, I want us to be about our preparation for 2026 and for the political parties themselves. How ready are the parties? They seem to be disintegrating at a time that is very critical. How better do we need to do? What is it that each of these players need? What role do they need to play? What is it that the people themselves need to do? Us as young people, for example, what role do we have? What must we do? So these are some of the things we need to understand. We'll try to interrogate many of the issues, even the current ones, to see how we move forward towards the 2026. So we're going to go for a very short break. We'll be right back.
And how
The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
But at the church,
Tawali man, what's up?
man, can you imagine people just dump everywhere? Someone drinks water and throws the bottle wherever.
Come on, Rogers. What else do you expect people to do with an empty bottle?
Simanya now, Did you know that plastics take at least 450 years to decompose?
What? That's a long time.
Exactly, because plastics are made out of a lightweight and flexible material that doesn't decompose easily. And plastics everywhere in the environment cause plastic pollution.
What is plastic pollution now?
It is the accumulation of plastic waste in the environment, like bottles, polythene bags, straws. All of these contribute to plastic pollution.
I have been using them without knowing their effect.
Yeah, a lot of people have. Plastics are a danger to the ecosystem, both on land and in water.
So how can we overcome this problem? Is there something we can do?
Oh yes, we can reduce by minimizing the use of plastics, reuse by repurposing them, or recycle by collecting and processing them into new products.
Everyone wants to change the world, but no one wants to change themselves for the world.
How about we change our habits for the world?
And it starts with me and you.
This message is brought to you by Alternative Digitalk.
Hi Rogers, can I ask you something?
Shoot.
What does corruption mean?
Well, summarily, corruption is abuse of public power for personal gain or for the benefit of a group to which one owes allegiance. For example, when a public office is abused by an official accepting or soliciting a bribe. By the way, private people can be corrupt too, like bribing police officers to escape fines.
Okay. So exactly how does that concern me?
Well, do you pay taxes?
I guess yeah. What does that have to do with this?
Everything. Because those taxes you pay are supposed to facilitate services you use, like water, electricity, roads construction, medicines in hospitals, name it.
Okay, that is much bigger than I thought. But it can be stopped, right?
Well, yes it can, although it may not be as easy as it sounds. And here is the reason why. Corruption roots are grounded in our country's social, political, economic, bureaucratic traditions and policies.
So, what has kept it going this long? I mean, why don't we stop it?
Well, the main reason why it has been here for so long is because institutions are weak, either as a result of poorly defined ethical standards of public service, weak administrative and financial systems, or ineffective watchdog agencies.
What can we do to stop it?
At a national level, we must focus on strengthening the independence and effectiveness of public institutions that fight corruption. At a personal level, we must commit to never giving a bribe.
I promise I'll never give a bribe.
Well, that's a great decision you have made. Me and you now have to spread this message to all our friends. If we all do our part, corruption will be no more.
This message is brought to you by Alternative Digitalk.
Are you craving for that special meal that will entice your taste buds and leave you with lasting thrilling memories? Look no further. Spice Island Bulenga has got your answer. Natural, fresh and delicious juice, the best meals. Don't miss our daily specials from Monday to Sunday. Pizza Wednesday, Saturday Pizza Bonanza, you buy one and take two. Come dine with us and feel the experience. We are located at Prime Shopping Center in Bulenga, Mitiana Road. For inquiries, call us on 0704111720. Spice Island, we treat your cravings.
The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Are you craving for that special meal that will entice your taste buds and leave you with lasting thrilling memories? Look no further. Spice Island Bulenga has got your answer. Natural, fresh and delicious juice, the best meals. Don't miss our daily specials from Monday to Sunday. Pizza Wednesday, Saturday Pizza Bonanza, you buy one and take two. Come dine with us and feel the experience. We are located at Prime Shopping Center in Bulenga, Mitiana Road. For inquiries, call us on 0704111720. Spice Island, we treat your cravings.
The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Welcome back from that short commercial break, ladies and gentlemen. My name again is Roger Studiabwe, and with me is Mr. Mukaku Walter Lubega, who is from the DP bloc, but also Mr. Ochieno Joseph, who's one of the leaders of the UPC party. We're talking about many issues. In the first hour, we're talking about the Holy Alliance, an alliance that was formed with membership of 5 political parties. That is the DP bloc, that is the UPC, there's JEMA, there's NEED, there's the Conservative Party of Kenry Chams. And they labored to give the foundation on the reason why they think it's important to come together on around agreeable position and say this is what we want to do as the people of Uganda.
No, probably with the alternative social movement.
Yes, and many of them are really foundational issues. Land questions, that's one of the biggest questions here. Constitution and you know, reforms, the economic progress and whatnot. All of these issues are very important and issues that are closer to the hearts of the people of Uganda. So we made good deliberations. I think they've labored to explain exactly why that is important. And I hope that you as Ugandans out there, wherever you are, you're joining us from, where you're following us from, you follow through. Follow them also. They are making their promises. Make sure that you follow through and see if they do actually fulfill the promises, if they actually are different as they say from what has been happening, and hold them accountable. Again, at the end of the day, these are sort of people who are representing you as the people of Uganda. So you can ask them questions, hold them accountable. Maybe in the near future or in future at that, we'll come back to sort of assess how far it is going and what objectives have been achieved so far. But moving away from that, we want to go to the political parties and how they are doing, the confusion that is happening right now. Earlier, President Museveni, I think some years back, said that in 2021 he won't have opposition. In the Bible, Genesis, I think chapter 11, it details the construction or the fall, the Tower of Babel, I think, Tower of Babel, where apparently these gentlemen came together, decided, you know what, we're going to build a tower that reaches heaven. And God sees from that end and decides, these people may not be manageable when they do that. So he introduces tongues, confuses them, disperses them, and everyone runs out because they could not agree on anything. When you look at political parties and what is going on right now, and in hindsight, look at what President Museveni said about the opposition by 2021, I don't know if it would fall so far from that sort of, I don't want to call it prophecy because he would probably engineer it himself. How do you look, and I want to begin with you, Mr. Mukaku, as you look at the political parties right now, the opposition to be particular, how do you see them? How do you see yourselves doing that which you want to do? And the strength, what strength do you still hold at this point when almost every political party has a different faction, has a split, there are rifts in almost every one of those parties. How do you see that? How does it appear?
You see, for change is also about that. It's like development. As we address the bigger national issues, we ought to address also this, the smaller, lingering questions. So, such that we are capable of building capacity, capability, and focus for the bigger agenda. In UPC, there are problems. As UPC comes together with the rest of the country, they need to address that. We too in DP, it had become like normal. No sooner did everyone learn, even the young institutions, because it's a microcosm of what Uganda is today. Ungumming the politics of lies, taking people for granted if it exists in what democratic institutions are, they are, and also civil society organization and faith, including faith groups, faith-based organizations and culture-based organization, is going to be a task for every Ugandan. Even the evil things of the regime, the reigning evil things, will not spare anybody. Some people think that when Ochieno goes to this, the other day when we were here with Major, and at least now you can speak and go back. What are we hearing last week or this week? Even the Matakas have been attacked. Yeah? Many times they have been saying, look, guys, that's for politicians, for this.
It's not for us.
How was the life of a Mutaka claimed? The other day it was the pastor, Pastor Bujingo. Even where you didn't expect that in the church there is SFC, it is there. How Mukaku lost his life. And soon after they told you SFC, he was SFC, nobody knew. At least the ordinary person. So the evils pervading our society are not localized to any region, any family, any institution. The evils that we're talking about, the capture, the bad governance, the misrule, the dictatorship. As you deal with the dictatorship at the helm of government and the helm of NRM, which is in government, you are also dealing with the dictatorship at the helm of the other democratic institutions. The terror, you know, when we were launching the Holy Alliance, we talked about the lack of internal democracy, the terror within the parties, including the opposition parties. At least the terror of the card. Ochieno, you're talking about me, if you want any position, you're not going to get a card. We shall not even pass you to be presidential candidate in our delegates conference. You see, it's not only localized, UPC, it is in DP, it is everywhere. Now, even the young party called NUP was the same thing. Greed is eating up NUP. The other day they told us removing the leader of opposition is the normal thing. Soon after, we heard about what the LGBTs was saying. That's why the Asumanis are no longer part of the the leadership of the opposition, the shadow government, you know. The Asumanis. These are not ordinary performers in parliament. A parliament that has laid down in many ways, but the few shining stars are being shot down because of reasons we can't understand. And again, the few shining stars in NUP are being shot down, left and right. So you tell the people 2 weeks earlier that, look, this man has been one of the best performers. He has been our star. Whoever meets him, thank him. 1 week later, you have sent another gang of Kunga people to demolish the very leader that you are. Your party vice president, your outgoing globe, your commission of parliament. And 4 days later, you are now saying, I must fight this man out because of a social media line. And you claim you're a lawyer. And your Secretary General is a lawyer. And the new leader of opposition, the Right Honorable Bishekezi, is also a lawyer. If it is a case, how do you create a tempest where it did not exist? A cyclone where it did not exist. And you want people to say that cyclone is not just a cyclone, it is a hurricane. It's not even a tornado, it is a hurricane. And you buy space on TV to expound on that war. Leaving the main agenda of what you said, NUP is here to remove the dictator. But you are happy to fight that war. You are not happy to fight for the people, rising prices, people's failure to thrive, school fees, and all this. That does not matter. Electoral constitutional reform, it no longer matters. It's about get Mpuuga out of the way. Get Mpuuga out of the way. That's your agenda. And you can commit all the resources, even when they are burying the Mutaka. Instead of condoling with everyone else, you're saying that now the agenda is, this Mpuuga is a very bad man. It is 2 weeks ago you told people he's a good one. You as a lawyer, 500 million is too high. We also talked about it. When you change leadership, even of the opposition, very frequently, you are adding to the burden, the administrative burden. That the small resources that would have gone, because now you remember, in just the commission of the parliament, if Zake gets over his problem, he will get emoluments, 500.
Yes.
Now Mpuuga will get 2 weeks out of the job, he will get emoluments. Another one will also get emoluments. You have not even used your experience that yesterday you spent 3 years in parliament. 3 years in parliament, and you got 360 million as your gratuity. A car worth 325 million. Parliamentary giveaway. You spent 3 years, but also Kantinti had gotten the same amount of resource. But during that time, that was not a bribe, that was not corruption from the regime. Okay? Okay, we accept. But again, you go ahead and throw stones when you have built the same glass house. How about this car we got, the bulletproof? Ochieno not raising his concern about the bulletproof car. It's not that he was stupid or didn't see. He just said, that's not our main issue. Let's leave it. But when you start witch hunting Ochieno's brother, Ochieno will raise it. Because you remember during Sebagala, he was given 20,000 pounds to go and advance such that he could come well qualified to contest with Museveni and probably put him out of power. I wondered that day how Museveni was so magnanimous to train one that would take him out. This time around, it is even worse. The bulletproof car costs $166,700. We know, we can track it and know where it came from. Leave alone the tax it was impounded for by the revenue authority is 337 million Uganda shillings. Museveni comes out and says, "Don't worry, don't chase the enemy, don't malice, don't harass this young man. He's good to stand against me. I'll pay for
his taxes."
That is 300.
Okay.
You see, these are double standards. That time you did not raise a finger against yourself. Now you're raising it that 500 million gratuity. You got 360. You got all this. Nobody's raising a finger, and now you want everyone to enter that debate. These are the problems, the occupational hazards within our institutions, within the country, within our regions, and we need to deal with them as we coalesce quality leadership again, as we spearhead constructive dialogue, as we put together the Kains and Abels. You want us to get involved in this Cain-Abel war? I don't know whether they. In my local language, we call him Cain ne Abel. Cain and Abel. I think many other. You want us to get involved in this and leave the main picture. Leave the main picture. Leave the main agenda. Leave the key issues. Why are you doing that? Who are you helping? Are you helping the one who is repressing us, or you are helping yourself? But these question marks are going to come.
Mr. Mukaku, let me ask just one question. When you were starting, you said that while we deal with the general issues of the country, of the nation, we also need to look at those that are happening from within us. And the lack of internal democracy is many of the things we have also mentioned. I also want to believe that while we, as every opposition party is a government in waiting, potentially. So when
like every dissent in NRM is also government in waiting.
So when an internal issue comes up, and a leader, and one that is such of a misconduct, because you're standing against that, you're saying, as an opposition party, these are our principles 1, 2, 3, and among those are that we are not tolerating, for example, corruption. Yes? So if that is the case, how do you think we, as we move forward, we are going to handle many of these issues, build strong institutions? If one person misbehaves and we say, don't touch that one, because you know what? You also have your dirty linen that we have not put out in the public. Does that then build a strong foundation for parties that we want?
You want my answer?
Yes, I do.
The answer is no. We need to really do a comprehensive self-reflection. Are you a sportsman?
Sportsman, yes, I am.
Do you ever play football?
I do.
Yes. The objective of the team is to win the game. But dealing with the small niggles, whether he has an injury or whether there are altercations between the two players or three, man management, is also part of the game. So the objective of the entire oppressed Uganda is to get rid of corruption, get rid of bad governance, get rid of all this. But as I tell you, the key players, they need to be fit, they need to be focused.
And they need to have discipline.
They need to be injury-free. For them in the leadership or the steering wheel, that is proper leadership. If you want to be a good commander, then you must exhibit the qualities of a good commander, not just being taka-taka. And again, not just misinforming everyone how good you are when you are not.
Okay.
How did the 300 million get sorted again?
500?
The 300 million of that tax for that special car.
What is the equivalent?
How was it sorted out?
President Museveni wrote a letter in his own hand. He wrote to the Revenue Authority, Uganda Revenue Authority Commissioner, and said, leave the man, I'll pay it myself.
Mr. Chen, I want you to weigh in on this conversation. Where we stand right now with all of the way political parties are. Your party UPC has different versions. The DP has DP and DP block. The FDC now has Katonga and Najana Nkumbi. The NUP now is split. There is a good faction at the base. Meanwhile, Masaka, where NUP has one of the biggest bases of support, is where the split has begun from. With all of these things,
and NRA has got edible rights.
And many of these are the parties that many Ugandans are looking at for the alternative approaches. As we move ahead,
for you think they started from Masaka? How about Kampala? Do you know who were vying for Lord Mayorship?
I know nothing.
The mayor here was given a...
Oh yes. This
the
one.
mayor Kawempe, but then the brother Nyanzi.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Lubega, the Secretary General.
Mr. Chen.
You can mention and mention and mention.
Mr. Chen.
It's a time
Mr. Chen, what do you think about all of this, the confusion that is in this town called Uganda?
I think it's very unfortunate. I have always argued that, in any case, forgive me.
Sorry.
This country needs, we need leadership very urgently.
Yes.
And leadership usually is about sets of values and ideas, a sense of clarity and coherence, focal. That normally tends to narrow down to, at the steer, like mini captains. So even at the cockpit, you have cabin crew, so the captain, usually captain plus. So it's usually not a crowded space. And once it becomes a crowded space, it becomes what in the Badola, the caution us that far too many rats don't successfully sort out the peat. So what I'm saying is, it's an unfortunate thing for particularly the political position in this country that we have possibly too many opposition organizations.
Yes.
when, in my opinion, I think we should have fewer with clear leadership and possibly much more focused individuals as centers to push us forward. In successful spaces of getting rid of dictatorships and excess dictatorships like that of Museveni, Gaddafi, and others, even much more would not be compared dictatorship like that of Daniel Arap Moi, because you can compare that with Museveni's very apparent military dictatorship. Opposition groups emerge, but opposition leadership will tend to coalesce around a few individuals. Those individuals should be men and women with the capacity to generally bring together competing interests, competing ideas, and in many cases possibly ability to manage internal conflicts successfully. And while that is what leadership is all about, it also talks quite a lot to the kind of people we have in politics. That's why I say we predominantly have people in politics rather than politicians. So we should have, some and I and others, people in politics, if then we're able to be in political organizations, including like yourselves, that we should have people not who are managed like zombies, they almost even manage as Ugandans and end up like zombies, but people who are conscious about the mission, who appreciate the spaces in which they are, recognize the challenges facing this country, are angry now to recognize the loot and impunity that NR has subjected this country to and continues to, the insulting excesses like the Mpuuga story, which is not about Mpuuga, but it's really about how the National Assembly plays with people's monies. That should make people sufficiently angry to seek to come together and seek to rally around a set of ideas and therefore leadership. And so when you have such situations, people should then be able to respect those institutions and to make it easier, in which case then for these very difficult people to find people called leaders, make it easier for them to manage and then to go through this process of change. In Uganda, we haven't really had that now. Interesting, in the recent times. Interestingly, once Museveni came to power, the early part of their coalition, it was very clear that the only opposition was deep. It was UPC, and we had Milton Obote, and here we had Cecil Ugwa, later James Nyerere, and then people like myself in London. We joined then by our colleagues in DEP, in fact, then later my colleague here, Sam and others, and then Dr. Samugera. But you can see clearly we were relatively few organizations, but focused on one agenda, and seemed to have been there was clear consensus that we needed to change and we needed to focus on NRA. You will have strategic such conversations, and you will have disagreements, but it will possibly be disagreements between two. And in many cases, there will also be common areas of agreement. For example, the 1995 Constitution, when we're going towards it, how much of that was really something which consistent was able to find acceptable. After the Constitution was promulgated, what were our continued reservations for us? In my I'll talk as myself, and I can talk up to the present. Some people may have found it neither here nor there, but fundamentally, the fact that they left Article 269 of the Constitution, continued ban on political parties, was we found it completely unacceptable. But at the same time, many colleagues thought in the opposition that maybe we still had space to be able to use whatever the Constitution gave us, still to get rid of this guy. Yes. You saw then the coalition talk about the inter-party political forces cooperation, that brought together predominantly UPC and DP. In that alliance, in that cooperation, I was very, very now mature, young mature. Part of the then very big conversation before we then agreed in principle that Dr. Samugera, one, should participate, and then two, we should rally around, was whether or not it was going to be effective. So there you discuss strategy. And therefore you'll agree, and then you realize that it's less about interests of political parties or individuals, but is it going to work or not? And there was this very strong view that it might not work. And in fact, what was the usual suspect there on this? Because it's true, he was actually telling Cecilia and Dr. Samuel that you guys, you will not defeat Museveni is this thing of his, because this is designed. Number one, but particularly number two, your weakest point is the fact that political parties are banned. And so therefore, you do not have the people on the ground, organizational infrastructure to deal with it. Now, these are the guys, obviously they had also the relative advantage of being home. You can call it advantage, but sometimes, in a way, it was also a deceptive advantage, because you go to funerals and you go to churches and people hurl beauty around you. Then you think we have support. Possibly underestimating the infrastructure set by the other guy, but in particular because we've really not gone to the ground, the unknown on the ground. That advantage that we had then, you can see is an advantage. Bring it to today, we have a multiplicity of political parties and organizations. Now, of course, granted, this is UPC and DP, the most experienced, the oldest political parties, and they had seen it all, But even then, we're having those arguments. But those arguments and debates were strategic. It was mature. It was adult. Fast forward to where we are. I have argued that one of the challenges that we did have was a mistake, and I've called it a mistake, and I've said it again and again publicly, that I think that some post the 1996 elections, I believe that people who were coming out of NRA and recognizing that NRA was a fudged thing, and they needed to leave, including then later, 3 years later, Dr. Besigye. My opinion is that they needed to have joined the opposition rather than creating opposition organizations. So had Dr. Besigye joined us in the opposition, and so, and particularly, of course, then this is a loose IPFC, but the FCS has been dismantled. My opinion is that he should have joined Uganda People's Congress or DP. I understand that he would have been a more reluctant person, for reasons I will not say on this program, to join UPC at the time. Had Dr. Besigye joined DP at the time, I believe that the two political parties, DP and UPC, as oppositions to Museveni, would have gained strength and traction. And that I believe that by possibly even 2001, if he then went on even around that, although parties were still banned, it would have been a very different dynamics to what eventually we saw in 2001. These are fruitful thoughts. It's partly political stuff, partly for you guys in the media, but definitely something for researchers. Fast forward then beyond that, then you see the people who are coming out of the Mugisha Muntu, coming out of NRA. People come and form their thing, come and form their political organizations. What am I saying? I am actually saying that we have sort of many clouded field, but like some suggest, we end up with sort of a goodwill organization in the name of people power. For which the spirit for people power was generally so broadly positive that even I at some stage felt in my spirit that I belong to this. After all, these guys have constituted themselves to what I had lived and what I'm living. A huge amount of my infrastructure as UPC leader in the diaspora and here, I went to this organization. This is now breaking news to you. I actually have somebody who's quite key in one of the NUP infrastructures somewhere around the world. Very, very key. But these are people who are my mentees, in UPC. So, but these people did not go there because they were going to NUP. They went there as part of a cohesive, collective thing of this wave, for them to be able to go ahead and deliver.
Correct.
Of course, granted, for different other reasons, people continue to say that, look, this is the vehicle, it's near it's going to happen, it's near it's going to. But I'm like, they're there, it's not a problem. So I'm saying that that spirit sort of was lost. But then with that, what happens? You get new political organizations, you get fairly nascent leaders, and I'm not saying nascent leaders are bad. In many cases, people learn on the job, but like some says, there will be cases where it's not really easy to jump through the hurdles. But then fast forward to the broader national polity, how it is. Global polity is really around ideologies and the politics of the right versus the left. Politics of values. Now, to think DP and to think UPC, we're generally always fairly comfortable. However much we are beaten, when we wake up in the morning, being beaten under whatever by NRA, you find us around in the afternoon. In many cases, obviously, because of our ideological coherency and linkages. And of course, then in the groundings, and then of course the other thing, the social basis and sense of clarity, and it's not no contradictions. When then you turn this into 10 political organizations, you end up with organizations whose stands you have no clue. You end up with people who may be Oxbridge is Oxford, Cambridge, meaning the Harvard top class excellence. But politically, it's neither here nor there. You know? And you possibly end up with possibly a guild, a quality guild president, not, or there's a UPE guild presidents sometimes, you know? But things are neither here nor there. Those are some of the problems. Now, who is the beneficiary? The beneficiary is NRA.
You know, my friend Koto.
The beneficiary is NRA. The beneficiary is Mr. Museveni. The disadvantage are you, the youth of this country. Why are you? You are the ones who, you hit 18 when parties were banned. You are the ones who hit 18, but without the privilege of belonging to St. Henry's Chitovo's debating club. You are the ones who turned 18 and you do not belong to the active National Students of Union, Students of Uganda Union, NUSU. These days it's called something NRA, which I don't know. For me, as early as my secondary school, I was, and it was not NUSU UPC, because it was not. That's another topic for another conversation, you know. But the National Students Union, as the students' movement, was active, it was real, and it was cool. So you graduate from high school, you go to universities or indeed technical colleges or teacher training colleges, and you already imagined trained leaders. So those guys delivered. Today we have challenges, not only in terms of people who then end up in politics because of monolithic personal merit polity. Me, myself, and I, normally driven by materials, driven by money, and sometimes driven by patronage. You meet Mr. Museveni in a particular corridor in Iganga and you're told, you're good. What are you up to? You know, you work in the bank. You know, you join us, we can work with them, then we can, you're a good, you can talk, you're a good debater.
You can work,
you can go and become MP for Luka, we shall give you the money. That is sort of what we have at the moment. And then sometimes when it doesn't work, then, say, where's Mukaku? I think I can have Mukaku and work with him. Okay. So generally, I think the political parties and organizations we have at the moment in opposition are generally weak. UPC, we are weak, but we've been surrounded and been surrounded for the last 40 years. In the likely event...
Generally weak, ideologically not well grounded, socially not well grounded, just fun fact.
For all of the parties.
What we call deceptive support.
Okay.
So in the event that we get ourselves sorted, we can. Now, DP by and large, yes. Then the rest, then come the issues. But then it would be unfair then to the big political parties like political parties like DP, like FDC and NUP. The challenges in them are directly linked to this. But of course now there's been evidence and people have been suggestions that there's politics of money and people being compromised. Sometimes I can think that some of these things are thrown by the establishment, thrown by intelligence services in order to kill confidence from Ugandans, bring doubt and suspicion amongst people so that people find it harder to work together. Okay. That's the advantage for NRA. Okay. But you cannot say that what map is it going to show for Uganda, focusing on the position without focusing on NRA, the Museveni thing. In fact, the worst political organization at this material time is NRA. And it's the worst because NRA, as you knew it before, is dead. NRM is dead and will never be the same again.
That's true.
What we have now is a Pilau, which is an organization which is
in the final phase of capture.
Being organized maybe to become a fallback position for Mr. Museveni. For many other reasons, people talk about it, because of the emergence of NUP and things like that. But for many other reasons, it is the fact that NRA, which is the ruling political organization, but which has an opposition which is bigger than the mainstream Ugandan opposition. But unfortunately, because of impunity, that opposition is riding on the privilege of Mr. Museveni because Mr. Museveni is son ruling it. But most importantly, because the resources they're using are your tax dollars and tax monies, which is not the privilege that Mukaku or any other political organization or leaders out there do have. And so for that reason, Ugandans need to wake up, get angry, demand that Pilau and Mr. Museveni, what deal really is it? Okay. The more they do that, the more they realize that, well, amidst the mess in the many opposition political parties, there must be a formula that creates a reemergence of genuine political leadership and political organization that is able to take on Museveni and therefore then to reclaim this country.
Mr. Mukaku, you mentioned earlier in your submission that one of the issues that are facing many of the opposition parties is lack of internal democracies, which is fair enough, at least that we have seen.
Intra-institutional or intra-political party terrorism.
as we move forward, we have a number of...
As we build small mafia cults.
We have some national mafias. But so we have some comments, so I want to read them later. But let me first get this out of the way. You did mention earlier, and I wanted to ask you just a bit, as we move forward, and of course the desire is to have formidable opposition parties, those that stand with principles. The thing is, UPC and the DP at least traditionally have groundings. Now I don't know, not that much, I wouldn't say. The others that came later seem also to not be here or there. So with the lack of internal democracies, how do you think we can work against that to avoid the springing up of the unnecessary parties that do not necessarily become strong, do not have such much grounding that they are going to actually overrun the ruling government, but that we have a few big parties that have grounding, that they can stand a position and move an inch on the government, the ruling party.
Liberation of politics that we have to get involved in is far beyond just the multi-party politics that we normally play under normal democracy. The situation we are in is not a normal democracy. At least you can allude to that fact. So, liberating the country will also mean liberating our institutions which are under capture and liberating our voices so that we give capacity to the citizens to re-own this country. It's just the belief that we can and never fail to undertake. And just the genuine heart to be statesmen, not for God and my stomach. Yeah. So and I'm telling you, to the highway, while we have these smaller fights of Abel and Abel, we have many Abels. We have few kinds, if I can just Lugandanize it or naturalize it. We have very few kinds, but we have very many Abels. Abelis. I would think Ochieno, all the time we've been with him, leaving the comfort of the UK, good job, and all these, coming back here, mobilizing the diaspora, doing all that I know he does and I see he does. He's excelling as one of the good, the Abels. What we need to realize as a country and as UPC and as East, North, West, but put him in that basket of quality leadership. And leadership is not about style. That the more I, the more I do that, the more I look like a leader. Leadership is about teamwork. I have told you, with that false promise, taking the people for a ride, with a lot of collateral damage in terms of life and blood, people believed Uganda was now able to take off again. The Ochienos of the day, and probably some of us, saw the seeds, the very same seeds that we had carried, which would destroy this. Shortly after, the Vestiges came out, the Tinyefunzas came out, the Serwangas, and many of them have lost their lives. Some are still alive, even the Amamambavazis. But leaving what has happened, we must now come to the realization that it's time to land the boat called Uganda. Everyone's effort is going to be needed.
That's true.
So it doesn't matter whether you're in business class or economy 1, economy A, economy B, economy C, whether you are in the cockpit, we must all say we need to get together. We need that joint dialogue. So the good ones in UPC, the good ones in DP, the good ones in everything you think about, the good ones in NOP have got to recoalesce for the sake of our country, the Ugandan dream.
Okay.
The Ugandan dream. It is that Ugandan dream where you have a young lady like Mpuuga. She has her aspirations. Irrigate the aspirations and opportunity. Give her the promise that we are going to sort the issue of leadership, which we now have as a crisis: failed leadership, failed governance, and then capture.
I want to read some of these comments. I want us to address them as we conclude, because time is running out. There's Brooke Williams Chikomeko. He said, I beg you people to invite a NUP spokesperson one day on this show to clarify about the Mpuuga issue of 500 million. We'll look into that. Brooke, Medi Councillor, says those men's role is to destroy political parties as they destroyed the parties where they were before, because NRM pays them to do so. I don't trust all of you are hypocrite. Uganda is moving backward than moving forward. Medi Councillor sounds more unhappy. Ethan Mwine says, I'm following from Ankala. And then he says, I don't have much confidence in this alliance as I don't see anything different. Mr. Mukaku, who is here preaching, has come from DP, sought an NUP card and didn't get it and started calling them NRM funded. Joined PFT and now has run away to form Holy Alliance. It's not exactly reassuring, and I hope Holy is not just a name. Okay, this one has his personal questions against you. And then this one says, Mr. Mpuuga, his party feels that he was morally obliged to decline the service award. Mpuuga, on the other hand, feels that he is entitled to it, and he has his reasons that this party doesn't want to listen to. Mpuuga should not bring in Buganda issue. When you listen to Mukaku, you might think that Bobi Wine is not even supposed to be a leader of NUP. I want to tell him that Obama wasn't the most experienced leader when he took over leadership of the US, and Trump won Hillary Clinton, a lady who once served as Secretary of State. Bobi Wine is capable of leading this country. Okay, most of them were generally comments. I don't think they were particular questions. But as we conclude on this conversation today, I want you to, both of you, in your concluding remarks, to look in the eye of that Ugandan who's joining us from the other side, and tell them what they need to look out for as we move towards 2026 in the midst of this confusion. What do we do as common Ugandans? How do we go about all of this? In conclusion, you can carry out and conclude those together.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. First of all, in every situation imagined, there will always be cynics, naysayers, doubters, and wreckers.
Yes, that's true.
One was asking me that, this NRM paid. Now, if NRM paid me to create the people power, which gave rise to NOP, I think that was a good pay. I would be like Mpuuga. I need to be paid. I need to be given the gratuity. If Museveni paid me to create people power, the way I created it, to go through all the blitz of Chadondo, of Ginger East, of Jiri, with all the SFC I confronted, and Arua, when even a candidate was arrested and I remained, oh, that was good. I want to thank him for that. Today, me and him and the others, we are the only political outfit probably that has not been allowed to carry out open public engagements. He knows the reason. Because we are paid, we seek opportunity to speak to the people, and we are stopped. While the ones he's talking about can even go to the marketplace, can go in the middle of the road, and do what they want to do. So in Uganda, they are second-class and first-class citizens today. The other one is DP. I am DP. I want to assure you, I am DP, and I've always. Only that, like some of them have heard, they have not listened to us since this program started. When you get one line in the Bible and you use it as and you call yourself a master of the Bible, it becomes a problem. I think we have explained. Even with the people power, and then no, he talks about me seeking the ticket of no, but he's forgetting I was the electoral commissioner of people power who instructed everyone. And if you go back on the forms that I made, tell us you are UPC, because UPC will give you the ticket, but you will need endorsement of the people power. Tell us you are DP, at least I'm on record, JEMA, FDC. How this one changed all of a sudden, and that brought the first departure, main departure between me and Bobi. Because Bobi said, if anyone is not NUP, is not with us. First of all, we had problems, how NUP became to be NUP. Not choosing only. So with all this, he needs to have followed the history, and these are some of the departures. Like at the national level, the departures that he has been explaining, the unresolved. If the opposition is going to get capacity to take on the dictatorship as they claim, as we claim, we must reconstruct, we must be realistic of our challenges and act smart and also true to our promises.
All right. Mr. Ochieno, your concluding remarks.
I think it will be on record that the almost seditious observation by one viewer that for the first time ever in my life since I was born, and in Jesus' name I reject that nonsense, anybody, and it would be quite insulting, and I was nearly going to use a strong word to associate me with anything to do with Museveni. Do you get it? Look. Anybody who associates or seeks to attempt to associate me with anything NRA must be cheeky, silly in the correct English way. But you know what? I think very, very courageous. Please do not try that again. But look, as Uganda People's Congress of Milton Obote, and I know some people really don't like that, meaning the founding Uganda People's Congress of Misuse and Obote and me today, I am fundamentally opposed and I reject anything NRA. But as our founding parents did, part of my job today is to do as they founded and to seek to reclaim as much of what we can of our country, to bring it together across our different interests, identities, and everything holistic, so that we're able to rebuild the Republic of Uganda on the foundations of my Katonda Negwanga Lwafe, which was the UPC Foundation, the Busoga College Miri Foundation that we gave to the Republic of Uganda as for God and my country. That's my commitment. And I will do each and everything possible, at huge cost I've done already, to do that. I just believe that this is possible, and I also believe that it's not possible to do it alone. It's just irritating when some people want to do it their way, and when NRA wants to do it in the manner in which they co-opt rather than to cooperate with Ugandans. That approach I reject.
They corrupt and co-opt.
And for that reason, I reject that kind of, especially where people one thing in the morning, something else in the afternoon, and something else in the evening. I engage constructively with all citizens of this country, and I'll continue engaging constructively with all of them, including people in NRA. And there's some sensible guys down there. I know many of them are just trapped, and particularly some of the younger ones who are less than 48 years old, meaning that when these bandits came, they're only 10. They have no clue. Those are young Ugandans that we need to be to engage. But we need to engage them and give them hope that a post-NRA Uganda is one in which we don't call them versus us, but that we seek to rebuild the mess that these guys did, and to do so, respecting democratic institutions, respecting political institutions, respecting the constitution of this country, rule of law, but rebuilding a new foundation. The biggest challenge really is that for this moment, anybody who's heading in a political organization to do so with humility rather than with the high-handedness of entitlement. So political parties in opposition really have huge responsibility to bring their membership together, to bring their leadership together, but to work across the political divide with others to make sure that we're able to coalesce towards building a common consensus in which possibly able to have a national conference, a national consensus which brings us together in a post-Museveni Uganda, I repeat, one in which there are only winners but no losers.
Okay. Thank you so much, both of you. Two things for me, among many others, of course. But one, collective effort and consensus, but also internal democracies, that what we are talking about, what we are calling others out about, are not the same things that we're doing, that we are doing differently. And in that case, we are attracting people to say we are the right alternative. And that is precisely the reason why they need to move away from the bad leadership and governance. So thank you so much, both of you, for your time, for being able to talk to us about many of these issues. We appreciate you for always sparing the time to come here and speak to many of us Ugandans, and to particularly young Ugandans who are following us, to get perspectives.
And never forget to remind the young Ugandans that the struggle is not just about the elections.
Yeah,
there are so many other things that we need to do outside and beyond elections.
Yes. And that's why this is important, because then we get perspectives over and above just elections that happen periodically. So thank you so much, and thank you everyone else who has made it a point that we have this conversation. Lillian on the camera, Arnold in the control room, and everyone on the other side of that screen. Thank you so much for being a part of the conversation. Those who are joining us are Ethan Mwine always joins us from Ankara, Turkey. Brooke Williams, I think, is probably from the US, if I'm not mistaken. And many other guys who make it a point to come here every Monday to follow through and listen in and contribute to these conversations. We do appreciate you, and we try to do as much as we can to make sure that we have constructive conversations and those that are impactful to our community. Thank you so much. Have yourselves a very good night.
The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.